What's up, sports bettors? I got three sharp player props for you on Underdog Fantasy. So I say this all the time, but as a sharp bettor, you wake up and you look for value. You don't know which book is going to have the value, right? Sometimes there's a ton of profitable plays on Prize Picks. Sometimes it's Underdog, and that's really the benefit of having more sportsbook accounts, right? You want to have as many books as possible. But anyways, let's get into the first pick, which is from the sportsbook screen. So the play I'm on, my first pick, is going to be Clay under 23.5 points. So what you're going to notice is if you just zoom in, if I zoom in right here, what you're going to see is, hey, Prize Picks, they have Clay's line lower, right? They have Clay's line at 22.5 points, as you can kind of see right here. And then if we go back, what you're going to notice is all the sports books also have Clay's line at 22.5. FanDuel has his under 22.5 points favored. DraftKings has the same odds for the over and the under. Fliff has the over a little favored. But what you're going to notice just looking at every other data point in the market, so here you can see Caesars, all these different books are data points. And what you're going to notice is, wow, every sports book, every single one, they all have Clay's line at 22.5. Prize Picks has his line at 22.5. No House Advantage, which is another fantasy site. So again, sometimes there's a lot of value on No House Advantage, sometimes there's not. But Prize Picks, or I apologize, Underdog Fantasy, they're too high relative to the market. You're getting a point of value. Every book is at 22.5. Underdog's at 23.5. So we want to take the under, right? And this player prop, again, or this betting tool is called the OddsJam Sportsbook Screen. So that's the first play that I went with for today. And then what I wanted to mention is another benefit to having Underdog Fantasy is you're going to notice Prize Picks, right? For any 3-pick entry, maybe you can see this, maybe I got to zoom in a bit more, but they're giving you a 5x payout, right? They're only giving you a 5x payout. So any 3 picks you select, overs, unders, whatever, you're getting a 5x payout. On Underdog Fantasy, any 3 picks you select, you're going to notice you're getting a 6x payout. Anyways, rearrange the screen a bit so you can see the payout multiplier, but basically it doesn't matter what 6 picks you select. Overs, unders, your payout doesn't change, right? If we switch this to a baseball pick, go down a bit, doesn't matter, right? You're still getting a 6x payout on Underdog regardless of the picks you select. So long story short, if you break down the math behind Underdog Fantasy, what you're going to see is for these 3-pick entries, all you have to do to be profitable, and it's not that easy, so I'm not going to say all you have to do, I guess, but is you need to win 55.1% of your over-unders, right? So if you can select over-unders, just like Draymond, over-under 16.5 points plus rebounds correctly, above 55.1% of the time, right? Any of these player props, if you can get them correctly, just 3 picks, you just need 3 picks, you can get them correctly 55.1% of the time, you're going to be profitable. Right? So if you can hit your player props, let's say 60% of the time, if you can win your over-under 60% of the time, which would be amazing, your ROI on Underdog would be 30%. Really good if you can hit 60% of your player props. But of course, like what Underdog Fantasy is assuming is most people, they don't have an advantage, so they can only get these over-unders correctly 50% of the time. If you're only getting your picks correctly, you have no advantage. You can only get your over-unders correctly 50% of the time. Your ROI is going to be negative 25% on Underdog. Horrible, right? So long story short, you're just looking for player props on Underdog that are winning over 55.1% of the time. So the tool I use to find the majority of my player props, a lot of my player props, whatever, is right here, right? So out of these tens of thousands of lines on Underdog Fantasy, we just need 3 picks that are winning over 55.1% of the time. So a tool that's really useful is right here. It's called the Fantasy Optimizer. So you can use it for Prize Picks, Underdog, any of these other fantasy sites. Again, more sportsbook accounts, more profitable bets. You know, I gave out a few plays earlier on Prize Picks. There was some value on Prize Picks. Now there's value on Underdog Fantasy. So let's go through this, right? So on Underdog, we got to hit our player props 55.1% of the time to be profitable. So the first pick I ended up going with from the fantasy screen, from the Fantasy Optimizer, is Reed Detmers under 6.5 strikeouts, right? And this is all just based in sportsbook odds. So what you're going to notice is every sportsbook, all these sports books, Pinnacle, FanDuel, DraftKings, they're all data points. They're all telling us that Reed Detmers' under is heavily favored, right? His under's around, minus 160 odds maybe on average. So his under's heavily favored. So we know he's more likely to go under as opposed to over. If you look at Prize Picks, so if we go to Prize Picks, we can see where are they setting the line for Reed. So if we look up Reed, you're going to see they have his line at 6. Right? So Prize Picks is being smart. They have his line lower now. They have his line at 6. Underdog Fantasy is still offering his line at 6.5. They're too high. All the sports books have his under super heavily favored. So we know his under is more likely than his over. We know his under is winning above 50% of the time. But what OddsJam does for you, this fantasy optimizer, is it tells you the win probability for your bet based on sportsbook odds. All books have the under favored. We know the under is above 50% to occur, but it's 56.97% to occur, right? And a lot of people will be like, oh, who cares, right? Like, I can find player props that are winning above 50% or above 55.1% betting with my gut. And honestly, the answer is no, you can't. No, you can't, right? There's absolutely no way you can win 56, 57% of your player props betting with your gut long-term on Underdog Fantasy. It's not possible. I mean, all of my bets, right, have been based in this strategy. It's a pretty simple strategy, right? Underdog Fantasy, they don't change your payouts based on you selecting overs or unders. So you just look for those rare few betting opportunities for those rare few spots where sportsbooks have one side heavily favored. And in this case, it's Detmer's under 6.5 Ks. All the books have his under 6.5 Ks really heavily favored. So this is a great player prop bet to go with on Underdog Fantasy, right? And this has been my strategy, almost $100,000 in profit on Underdog Fantasy just with this one simple strategy. They don't change your payouts based on you selecting over or under, so you look for spots where sportsbooks have one side heavily favored. So long story short, let's just go in to the 3 player props I went with. Clay under 23.5, McDavid under 4.5, Detmer's under 6.5. 3 player props to win $2,100, 6x payout on Underdog Fantasy if we hit every pick. Any questions you have, these videos are supposed to be educational. I mean, the whole goal is to explain to you how you can make money consistently sports betting, beat the books. The purpose of these videos is be educational, help everyone out, beat the books together type of thing. So any questions you have, don't hesitate to reach out. Let's make money.